Assignment 6-4, Graphing Special Cases and Interpreting Graphs. Example 1. Plot the points right here and then draw the line through the points. So 5, 3. Remember when you're plotting points, you go left and right first, up and down second. So 5, 3 is 5 to the right, and then up 3, put a point. Negative 4, 3 means go 4 to the left, and then go up 3, put a point. 1, 3, go to the right 1, go up 3 points. And then negative 6, 3, go to the left 6, and up 3 units. Now if I draw a line through this, you should notice that this is a slope that we are very familiar with. This is actually a 0 slope. And also something else you should notice, every single one of our y values is the exact same number. So all y's are the same. When you have a 0 slope like that for an equation, your equation is just going to be y is equal to 3. If I tried to put my whole equation like y is equal to 0x plus 3, because our slope is 0, it's a flat line right here, well, 0 times x is 0, we just get rid of it. That's why it's actually y equals 3. So the slope is 0, and our y-intercept is also positive 3. Example 2. Okay. We're going to do the same thing, plot our points. So I've got negative 5, positive 2, which means go to the left 5 and up 2. Negative 5, negative 1 means go to the left 5 and down 1. Negative 5, 6 means go left 5 and up 6. And then negative 5, negative 4, left 5, down 4. Put your points. Now this time, whenever I connect my dots, it looks like we've got a vertical line, which is a slope that we call undefined. And something else you should notice about this one, every single one of our x values is always the same thing. X is always 5, negative 5. So actually, the equation of this line is x equals negative 5. Now, the y-intercept. If this is a vertical line going straight up and down, it is never going to cross my y-axis, so we don't have any. Don't put 0 because 0 means the origin. None means we're never going to cross the y-axis. So when you are graphing the equations of these lines, when you have y equals negative 4, all that means is find negative 4 on your y-axis. Remember, x is the vertical or the horizontal one, y is the vertical one. It just means take a negative 4 on your y-axis and draw a horizontal line going through it. There you have y equals negative 4. Anytime you just have x equals a number, so just x equals 2, now you're going to look at the x-axis, put a point at positive 2, and draw a vertical line through it. And that's the difference between a y equals, which has a slope of 0, and an x equals, which has a undefined slope. Okay. Now, if you flip it over and look at the back, we've been given a couple of graphs, and they're going to ask us several questions about it. So question A says, what is the value of y when x equals 2? Well, guys, if I was going to draw x equals 2, that's just a vertical line that goes through 2 on my axis. So they're talking about this ordered pair right there. So if I was going to actually write where that point is, that one was right 2 and then up 7. What they're actually asking when they say, what is the value of y when x equals 2, they're asking you to find the ordered pair that has your x value of 2, and they want to know what the y value is that matches it. So our y value in this case is 7. And as a matter of fact, on these kind of problems, I think it actually makes it much easier if you go through and you label all the perfect points. So that way you can answer the questions quickly. So if I was doing this point, that went to the right 4 and up 8. So 4, 8. For this point right here, that one is actually on the y-axis, and when we write a y-intercept point, if it's on the y-axis, the 6 goes in the y spot, we put a 0 in the x spot. When I write down this point, that one was left 2, so negative 2, and then up 5, positive 5. This point, is -4 and then +4. And this one should be enough. Go to the left 6, up 3, so that's -6, +3. Okay, so now on question B, it says, what is the value of x when y equals 6? Now keep in mind, whenever you're doing this, x comma y is the second number. So I'm looking for where my y value is 6, right there. The x value that goes with it is 0. So I would say x equals 0. C, getting practice with that again. What is the value of y when x equals -6? So now, x is the first number, so now I'm looking for where my x value is -6, it's right there. The y value that goes with it is 3, so y equals 3. Now the next few questions about this, what's the slope, what's the y-intercept, and what's the equation of the line, that's something that we've already done many times before. When you are looking for slope, you've got to find rise over run, and you can choose any 2 points that you want. I'm just going to choose this point and this point because I actually have some space. So right here from here. So to go from this point to this point, I have to go up 1 unit. So that means my rise is a +1 since we went up. Then I had to go to the right 2, so I've got a +2. Now it's always a good idea, if you're not sure if that's going to reduce, to type it into your calculator and just double check. My slope is still just going to be 1/2. Now the y-intercept means where does our line cross the y-axis? Well, it crossed right here at the +6. So our y-intercept is 6. Which means when we write our equation in y is equal to mx plus b format, we're going to put y is equal to 1/2 x for our slope, and our y-intercept was +6, so I put +6. All right, example 6. So this one once again is asking us what is the value of y when x equals 1 and all that. So I'm going to kind of come over here and label a few points. It's probably a good idea to find all the perfect points that you've got going on and to go ahead and label them. That'll make these problems much easier on you. So this first one, I went to the left 4, up 7. That's -4, +7. Okay. The second point, I went to the left 3 and up 5. So that's -3, +5. This point, I went to the left 2, so -2, and up 3, +3. For this point, I have a -1, +1. Now this point is actually on the y-axis, so that means that -1 needs to be in the y spot, and we've got a 0 in the x spot. The point underneath it is at 1, -3. This one is at 2, -5. And the last one is at 3, -7. All right, now that we've got those labeled, and I don't think I gave you very big graphs like that on your homework assignment, so you won't have to label nearly as many. Question A says, what is the value of y when x equals 1? So remember, it always goes x comma y. If we're looking for an x value of 1, we're looking for the first number. My x value is 1 right there when the y value is -3. So y is equal to -3. Part B asks us, what is the value of y when x equals -3? So once again, we're still looking for an x value. It's the first one. I see my x value is -3 right there when my y value is 5. So y equals +5. Then on part C, they ask us, what is the value of x when y equals 3? So now, x comma y, this time we're looking at the second spot. I'm looking for where my y value is equal to 3. It's right there. The x value that goes with it is -2. So x equals -2. So for the last few questions, we do need to find the slope, the y-intercept, and then write the equation of the line. So remember, slope is always rise over run. And I'm just going to pick 2 random points. I think I'm going to choose this one right here and this one down here. So to go from this point to this point, I have to move down. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. So that's a -6 rise because we moved in the downward direction. And then I go 3 to the right, so +3. And I do need to double check to see if that's going to reduce. -6 over 3 is in fact -2. So I put equals -2. That's my slope. The y-intercept is where we crossed the y-axis. And it looks like we crossed the y-axis right here at -1. So when I write my equation of this line, -2x for the slope, and then -1 for my y-intercept. Now, if you would, please pause the video and pass out the homework assignment so that everybody can turn to the second page. I want you to look at the page that looks like this, the stained glass window. When you are finished with the assignment today, you are going to be working on this. Now, all different boxes have different kinds of slopes. For x equals, anytime that you have x equals just a number like that, remember that is going to be the vertical line with the undefined slope. When you have y equals with just a number like that, those are going to be horizontal lines. Whenever you have these, all of these are going to have positive slopes, so all of those lines should be increasing from left to right. And then in this last box over here, you've only got negative slopes, so they all should be decreasing. Now what you are going to do is just pick any 3 random ones. It doesn't matter, I'm just picking some random stuff here. You're going to pick 3 from each box. And you are going to graph all 3 of them on the same picture. So if I was graphing x equals -8, all that means is that I find -8 on the x-axis and I connect it all the way through. And make sure you do go all the way through the entire picture of your graph. Otherwise, this is not going to work. So I graphed one of those from box A for you. I'm going to graph y equals -9 from box B. Y equals -9 is just a horizontal line that goes through -9. Okay. Now, for box C, whenever you are graphing one of these, my y-intercept is always the number that's all by itself. It starts at -7. My slope is the number attached to x, and if it's not a fraction, put a 1 on the bottom. So that means we are going up 2 and over to the right 1. And it might be a good idea to go all the way through your graph this time instead of just putting a couple of points in each direction. That way you make sure that you've got this perfectly graphed. So I'm going to connect my dots all the way through, and I highly recommend that you do this with pencil because it is very easy to make little mistakes. Okay, so that was my positive one. I want to point out on this one, box D, sometimes the y-intercept and the slope are going to be switched around. So your y-intercept is always the number that's by itself. I would start at +8, and my slope is attached to the x. So a -2 over 1 means down 2, right 1. And I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way through my graph. And then I can connect my dots. And I gave you guys bigger strips of paper this time so that you can actually go all the way through to both sides. You can keep going past the lines of the box if you want, but what you're eventually trying to do here is to fill this picture. You're going to have 9 different lines, and once you've got those 9 lines graphed, I want you to go ahead and start coloring in all of the different sections. Now I started mine, I didn't quite finish because I wanted you guys to see what it looks like from here. Remember that you do not leave with this assignment today. Finished or not, you need to turn it in at the end of class. If it walks out of my classroom, it's an automatic 2 zeros.